Welcome everybody to Chi Talks. My name is Vicky Delajoyo. Today is January 8th, 2026. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's our first program of the year, so I really appreciate you being here and for taking the time to watch the recording if that's what you're doing. Chi Talks is a complimentary monthly program offered by the National Qigong Association, or the NQA, which is a member-based organization providing education, research, and community for, with, and about Qigong. And you can join us every second Thursday of the month when we invite one of our professional or practitioner members to share some of their expertise and wisdom. At the same time, while all presenters on Chi Talks are professional or practitioner level members, the views, recommendations, and opinions on this program are always those of the guests and don't necessarily reflect any official policy, position, or endorsement of the NQA. Couple of moments, I'm going to be introducing this evening's guest, Michael Winn, who's going to be speaking about Chi deviation and Kundalini psychosis, the symptoms and cure. But before we begin that, Carolina Silva is going to give you some best practices for viewing this evening. So excited. I'm so happy to be able to welcome back Michael Winn. He's been teaching subtle energy methods internationally for decades, from Tantric Kundalini and Kriya Yoga to Tai Chi, Qigong, and inner alchemy meditation. He's studied with top spiritual teachers from many different traditions and is a prolific writer on decoding and making esoteric Taoism accessible for Westerners. Excuse me, I got distracted. I see somebody's trying to record to their computer. Okay, so he was one of the original NQA founders, and he served as vice president and then two-term president during his time on the board of directors in the 1990s. He's the writer, editor of Montauk Chia's first 7 books and is the author of several of his own books, along with many Qigong articles. Founder and director of Healing Tao USA and the Healing Tao University Summer Retreat programs in Asheville, Michael has created 10 home study courses on Qigong and Taoist inner alchemy that integrate high-level medical spiritual Qigong and inner alchemy meditation. He's also on the editorial board of the Journal of Taoist Studies and has presented papers at numerous international conferences of Taoist scholars. He's led 22 China Dream trips, and his next trip is scheduled to take place in August through September in 2026, so you might want to start budgeting for that now. You can read more about his extraordinary and extensive experience and his offerings by going to the Chi Talks page on the NQA website, which also links to his longer story on his own website. So Michael, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and welcome back to Chi Talks.
It's wonderful to be back. I'm so grateful for your hard work. I feel like you're the great mother of the NQA, holding together the masses of every month, and it's just fantastic.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that so much.
Services. I'm so honored to be here with you again.
So before we dive into this topic of deviations, which is so fascinating, would you just give us really short crib notes, just a couple sentences that are a little bit about your story, about what initially drew you into Qigong? We don't need your whole history because that would take up our whole hour. But tell us a little bit about what drew you to this practice.
Well, basically, I started with Kundalini Yoga, but it didn't actually open my Kundalini. And then I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening and discovered how ungrounded I was. And I was floating out of my body and was like, someone like 50 feet away would light a cigarette and I would feel it burning into my aura. And, it was just like I was walking down the streets of New York and I feel like I was 10 feet tall. And it was like I was on a 24-hour LSD trip, only I never came down and I never got tired. But I was not grounded. Okay. And when I discovered, and then I was trying to figure out how to solve that problem, I stumbled upon Taoism, and then I realized that the Chinese had the secrets, how to be grounded and how to be in your body at the same time that you're playing in the energy fields.
I love that. That's such a great story. Thank you for that. So let's go ahead and go into this topic. First of all, what are Chi deviations, and are they the same thing as Kundalini psychosis?
That's not a simple answer.
Okay. I'm sure it's not. Take your time.
Here, let me just say, first of all, I want to contrast a genuine spiritual awakening where people open up their subtle energy bodies and they, become multidimensional, versus chi deviation or Kundalini psychosis, which are where people have a extreme energy imbalance, but it's actually mostly right here in their physical body or the lower layers of their energy body. So that's the important thing to understand.
Okay.
Please mute yourself if you're
Very good.
I mute you. Okay. Not you, Michael. You turn yourself back on.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a difference, of course. So tell us a little more. What are chi deviations?
So let's. I mean, I get calls all the time from people from different traditions who have severe energetic imbalances, which often result in insomnia. A guy just called me this week. His whole body was numb. He could hardly breathe. I mean, there's just a whole range of symptoms that people might call either chi deviation or Kundalini psychosis, which but I want to point out the difference mostly between the Chinese and the Indian terms here. So if you go to China and you ask people there, the general consensus is qigong potentially dangerous? There's a wide consensus, yes, it is potentially could be very dangerous. And there's a published Qi encyclopedia, which has huge, long sections on Qi deviation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you come to America, and most people, it's like a rarity. Okay? It's like, what? This Qigong is healthy, it is safe, and it's like a good thing to do. And like, what's the problem? Okay? I mean, the cases of Qi deviation, I have no cases of Qi deviation in any of my students. I mean, I just prepare them and get them grounded, and it's fine. Okay? So in decades, I've never once had any one of my students with a case of Qi deviation. Now, why is it so dangerous in China but not here? This is a cultural difference of perception. And the difference is that what the Chinese call crazy, okay, going crazy, basically taking down your collective mask. It is a collectivist culture where the collective defines what is healthy. And if you do Qigong and then suddenly your internal individual self bursts out and starts acting out or expressing itself, you're crazy. You're now out of the mold and everybody's looking at you and going, what's wrong with you? Okay? You should be conforming to your work group, your family group, your national group, your whatever, tribal group. It doesn't matter. It's like you if you're not fitting in, then just you're broken. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why in China they don't have psychotherapy as a profession. If you go see or to go see someone like a psychotherapist, you're already breaking yourself out of the group. You're saying, what's wrong with you? You're broken. The group is what will heal you. Now, it's just the opposite in the West, where people want to break out and let their individuality come out. And that's great. Yeah, I'm getting my true self. And I'm like my individual self. That's the model here is individual first and then your social self second. Okay. So it's just the opposite in China. So that's one reason why the Chinese think it is so dangerous. Okay. Because it's people are breaking out of the collective mold. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to understand this. This is a very, very different cultural perspective here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in terms of the Indian, and actually all of these practices are based, I mean, the whole notion of Kundalini and these awakening patterns are based on a serpent energy, okay, which is, and the Kundalini is like in the base of your spine and it spirals up with the spine. And they have all the chakras in the spine because it's a fire path almost always in India. So it's the spine is the fire path, and so they put all the chakras there. And the goal is to spiral up through those chakras and go out to the crown and go to some type of loka or some other heaven and enlightenment. Mm-hmm. It's a one-way path, okay? Mm-hmm. And in Egypt, you had the Uraeus, the pharaohs would have had a snake, serpent coming out their third eye, okay? But in China, they also have serpent power. It's called the dragon. Okay, they have a snake, which is a baby dragon, but they also just have the dragon, which is one of the top power animals in the Chinese zodiac. But the difference here is that the Chinese model of the dragon is it comes up in the east, it rises from the water, it goes up to the high heavens, and it goes back down. Okay? It doesn't go up and just go off into space. It's circulating between heaven and earth. Okay? So it has, they all use the serpent energy, but the important thing to understand is that it's not the serpents that matter. It's the fact that the serpents move in spirals. Okay? It's the spiraling energy that lets spirit convert into matter when it's coming in, or matter spiral back into spirit. So there's this constant exchange between heaven and earth, and humans are like half heaven and half earth.
Right.
And that's our job. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Just trying to circulate between those two. Okay. And find the right balance. And the whole thing's an experiment. Okay. We're in an experimental sandbox, like and so what happens is people start experimenting around. There's like, I want to get enlightened, or I want to have a genuine spiritual awakening. And they start playing around with different practices, and they may have constitutional issues. They may have buried stuff in there, and they trigger it. And suddenly they're in Kundalini Psychosis, if it's an Indian type of practice, or Qi Deviation, if it's a Chinese one. Okay. Your fire, your water energy, or something's off out of balance. Okay. And that can be hell. Okay. It can be, and these people go to the hospital and the doctors don't know anything about what they're going through, and they give them some drugs and try and suppress it, which can be very damaging, and just pushes it down, and then it doesn't solve it, and very unsatisfactory solution. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it is a very serious problem for some people. Okay. I just go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, when did you first encounter an issue of somebody coming to you because of Qi deviation, or that you recognized that from the extensive study that you've done? What was that first time like for you, and what did you see?
Let me tell you, it's a really wild story here. Okay, I'm living in New York City. I'm going to knock at my door. I met this woman. I said, "What's up?" She said, I have to talk to you. Someone's inside of me talking to me 24 hours, 24/7. And I hear this voice and they're bossing me around, telling me what to do. I'm going, really? Okay. How did that happen? Well, I went up to this yoga retreat center in Monroe, New York, which happens to be the oldest ashram in America. This guy, actually, Brahmananda Murti or something like that, actually had a degree in acupressure also, and so he's studying that. And I went to take some basic yoga class, and I was in the back, and all this cellists, the followers were up there wearing their robes, and the guy's teaching, and all of a sudden, the teacher died. And he jumped into me, okay? He died, and then I'm like writhing on the floor and having this Kundalini type of experience, and all his followers are like aghast, like, why did he choose this total beginner woman instead of like one of his devoted followers, right? But she says, it's been hell since. This guy's inside of me, and he's driving me nuts. He's bossing me around, trying to tell me what to do. I said, oh, okay, you got a problem. Okay. So I said, look, you got some type of karmic thing with this guy. You can't get rid of him. All you can do is integrate him. Okay. You got to train him, and you got to open up your energy channels, and you got to say, hey, this is what's going to go on. And if you want to help me become a healer or become more advanced, that's fine. But you're not running the show here. It's my body. Okay. So I taught her how to take control of the energy field. I taught her to teach the orbit to this guy, and a lot of things. And she finally got it. And she said, yeah, it's working. Okay. She finally tamed this wild, event that happened inside of her. Okay. Now that's a very extreme case, but it was really interesting. Okay. And really wild. Okay.
Yeah, so you had this sense of, this person who was feeling possessed, and so that's a very extreme version. And then you talked also about somebody who had insomnia, and somebody else who was numb, I think you said. So there's a lot of different ways in which Qi deviations show up, right? So
Sure.
how do you even identify or know or recognize it, Michael? Is it through reading their energy, or is there some other criterion that you're looking at?
Great question. I'll tell you. The first thing I do is to evaluate whether it meets my definition of a real awakening or a Kundalini thing, or whether it's that they're just you know,
Right, because awakenings can feel crazy making too, right?
yeah, awakening
Yeah.
can just be like confusing. Like, wow, I'm in these other dimensions. Now, just let me say, when I had my spontaneous Kundalini awakening, I was in Africa. I was a journalist, and I triggered it by accident. I was like, like doing a breathing technique I read in some book. I didn't even have a teacher. Okay. And at the time, again, I have to understand, nobody knew what Kundalini was. Way back when I told people in New York I was like doing yoga, Kundalini yoga, they said, "Is that a brand of yogurt?" Okay. I mean, it was underground. Okay. It hadn't come from California to New York yet. Okay. So when I had this experience, what happened was I did this breathing thing, and I was just increasing the pause between the inhale and the exhale and building up this neutral space, and I stopped breathing. And I'm going, wow, I'm not breathing. This is amazing. And all of a sudden my body exploded. And like a big atomic bomb, and it rained back down, and I was like lying here, and then I started going through walls, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, it was like wild. Okay. So here's what I've realized over the years. Okay. If you're having a genuine awakening experience, you're going to have what I would call a multidimensional experience. If you're having chi deviation or Kundalini psychosis, you're not having a multidimensional experience. You're in your body, but it's out of whack, and you're really too hot, too cold, too sick, too something. Okay. So that's the first thing I look at is like, where is this? What level of consciousness is this person at? Okay. And if it's a real awakening, then it's like, okay, let's ground that. Let's work with it. Let's evolve it. That's good. And if it's a chi deviation or a Kundalini psychosis, then I go, okay, we have to find out the cause of your particular chi deviation or your psychosis and correct it.
So
Okay.
that's how you start. So that's how you approach cure, is that you or healing is that you go for the root of what caused the deviation to begin with,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
what happens, and then where do you go from there?
Well, you have to understand human beings are
Very
multi-layered.
different.
We're
Yeah, yeah.
extremely complex. You have these, I would call constitutional layer. To check their constitutional layer, I usually look at their Chinese astrology chart. So
Hmm.
astrology is very different. It's geocentric, it's earth-centric. Western astrology is up there in the planets, right?
Hmm.
And there's lots of free charts online you can get. And you look at this thing and you see, okay, you've got 12 animals, and what are the dominant animals? And you've got the five elements from heaven. What's your dominant, that tells you your body's constitution. And often what happens is that people have a huge amount of one energy, okay? And that can be a blessing and it can be a curse.
Hmm.
And the reason why it's a blessing, well, it has a lot of fire, a lot of earth, so it has certain type of superpowers. Like, you can do certain things really well. But if you don't use all that energy, it stagnates and it becomes toxic. It can become a disease, or it can suddenly break out. And, if you're doing some spiritual practice and you just trigger it, you're suddenly in a nightmare state.
So what you're saying is that the chi deviation then comes from a kind of stagnation from energy that has not been processed or been
That's
working through you.
That's the first thing. That's the constitutional level. There's
Hmm.
karmic levels. Each one of your organ spirits has got its own incarnational history. Okay.
Hmm.
So the Taoists don't look at past lives. They look at your organs, past fragments coming in from other souls. Okay. The soul is always fresh, but the organ spirits each has their own incarnational history. And then you can look and see there might be a problem with one of those organ spirits. So you got to check their organ spirits also. Okay. And then there's ancestral issues. Okay. Sometimes your bloodline stuff, that's a completely different source. Okay. Your parents, your grandparents, whatever, may have some issue and they're like trying to get it worked out and through you because you're in the bloodline. And so you got to check that and see, is this an ancestral issue? Okay. And a lot of times there's ancestral issues. Okay. I mean, people just pick up stuff and are playing it out again from their parents or grandparents.
Right. Well, I think even in Western medicine, they talk about, carrying forward the DNA, or carrying forward ancestral memories and ancestral experience in your body.
That's called epigenetics as
Yes,
opposed to genetics.
exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
what's interesting, very good that you mentioned that. What's interesting is that 99% of who you are, how you manifest yourself, is epigenetic. Okay.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
hardwired thing is really only about 1%.
Hmm.
That is really good news because what it means is that is what qigong can change. That's
Right. That
That's
allows for
uh,
transformation,
that's
right?
the soft wiring. You can
Yeah,
change that with qigong.
yeah,
Okay. It's like
yeah.
change your channels. Like, yeah, let's tune this up and let's like get this thing working right. That's the really good news is that we can change our epigenetics.
So when somebody comes to you and they have some kind of chi deviation, however it may be manifesting, and you've determined that it's in fact a deviation, that it's not some kind of spiritual awakening, um, and you start to look into what's the root cause of it, then part of what you do to help them regulate is through qigong practices or specific practices that you would apply maybe according to the organs that you're looking at, or what is that how you do it, or is there something else?
So there's a wide range of things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll just say this, let's just to put this in context. There's a lot of people who are mixing practices. They're doing some qigong and they're following this Indian guru here and this and that, and they're doing like we're in the information age, and Westerners are all very impatient, and we're living in this false young culture where it's go, 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 give me the information right away. I want it, I want to download it, and I want it in the next 30 seconds. Okay, and so they go to some teacher, often the Indian ones, says, "Oh, we're going to open up your third eye, or we're going to count," and they're going to start pulling all this energy in, and then boom, they have this new high level energy stuck in their head. Okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that is complicated because they're also watching porn and they have sexual energy things, which is amplifying it. Sexual energy will just blow up anything. Okay. So porn addiction, I mean, the internet sex beast is one of the most powerful, dark forces on the planet. This is a common problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very careful. If you're having any type of deviation or Kundalini psychosis, you need to go cold turkey, stop all porn, okay, and even all sexual activity because you don't know how to manage that. Sexual energy is just like throwing kerosene on a flame, on a fire. You
Mm-hmm.
blow it up. I mean, you know how sexual passion is, right? Hey, honey, I'm just like hot now. Let's go for it. Well, most people don't necessarily have a lover there that's like some emotional pattern or mental pattern, and they throw the flames on that and the kerosene on and deeply suppressed internal patterns, and then those come out as chi deviation or psychosis. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so
So you're one of the things what I'm understanding you to say is that people kind of are doing this different type of experimentation and that kind of thing, and that can lead to a chi deviation. Are there other ways in which people, I mean, how do people become aware of it? Is it that they have the symptoms like insomnia or numbness or something in their head, or what are some of the ways in which people
when
know?
no, 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 when you go into one of these states, it's extreme. These people are desperate. They are.
Okay, so it's not, so chi deviation isn't something that's sort of happening on the side and you may or may not notice it. It's something that it's very clear something's off.
Well, they may have had mild symptoms of it and they ignored it for a while, and then suddenly it got worse for some reason. Okay, and then they start looking for help, and they find me because of all these people on the internet say, "Oh, well, I talked to this guy and he helped me and I solved my problem." So then I get all these people calling me up. Okay, so and I'm happy to help them because I know, it's just like they're really suffering. Okay, this is like you just like wanting to help these people get out of that. Okay,
Mhm.
but and there's a lot of simple things people can do. I tell them number one, uh, 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 start eating meat. Okay, particularly beef. It's cold in Chinese. That
Yeah, yeah.
start to ground their energy. Okay.
Mhm.
I tell them start taking a shower every day, maybe twice a day. The water washing down the excess. Usually, it's an excess fire more than an excess water thing. Okay, so shower, not a cold shower because that'll bring out the heat, but just like a lukewarm shower, start to wash it down. Okay, and get it out of your head. Start to take it down. Take walks in nature. Okay. I have a 10-minute training form, a qigong form I call deep earth pulsing. You can just look Michael Winn YouTube, deep earth pulsing 10-minute training. There it is. That's one of the best things. Okay, not everybody can do it. Some of them are too like out of whack and they can't do it, but majority of them can start to focus and send their chi down to the center of the earth and ground their energy body, merge it with Gaia's energy body. Okay, these are all things that anybody can do very quickly and see if that like starts to reduce their symptoms. Okay,
Mhm.
just and about the eating the meat, I want to mention the story. You see, like when I first had my Kundalini awakening, I didn't even know it was Kundalini because the term wasn't around there, okay, much. I didn't know what it was. And then I started looking around. There was only one book out at the time from India, published in 1970 by a guy named Gopi Krishna, okay? It was called Serpent Power, Evolutionary Force in Man or something like that. Later on, a friend of mine, Gene Kiefer, brought Gopi Krishna to the United States, and I met him, and I talked to him, and I interviewed him, okay? And he was a typical Indian pundit. He had these big, thick Coke bottle glasses, and he was in his head. I was not impressed by his energy field. It was like, no, this guy's totally in his head. But he told me the story, how he was like looking, everything was milky white for 11 years, okay? He was like, everything he could see was like in this fog, okay? And then someone said, look, go eat some meat. He ate the meat, and the whole thing went away, okay? After 11 years, okay? He just needed a grounding diet, okay? I mean, yeah. I thought it was a pretty amazing story, okay? But yeah, so there's all these, the Indians, their model is again to go up and out, okay? And fortunately, I discovered the Taoist path, and that like, no, you go up and then you go down.
Come down.
Okay, and you circulate and you exchange. You don't just go out. Okay,
Yeah.
That's just like spacing yourself out, and like I call it's the escape path. Okay, He's like, let's get out of here. This is suffering, and this is like a prison planet or bad karma or something. Let's go out. I mean, I had the experience. See, I was self-taught in meditation. I didn't trust gurus or teachers or anybody like that. So I was just meditating once, just going inside, and I suddenly started going out like a rocket ship at the crown of my head, and I was like flying high, and I went, wow, this is so cool. And it was like I felt like I was 2 or 3 miles above my head, and all of a sudden I go, wait a minute, what about my body? And as soon as I thought of that, boom, I fell back down to my body. And I'm lying there, and it was like, oh, this is a garbage dump. I don't have to clean up this body. And I realized that I can't just leave my body behind. That no, it's the body and the mind are one. Okay, that's the whole Taoist thing. Okay, the Westerners know it's a split. The body is just this coarse thing down here, and a lot of the Hindus are saying no, the body is like gross. They call it the gross body. No, the whole thing is this. Every layer of consciousness is part of your energy body, including your physical body. Okay. It is just vibrating more slowly. That's all. So there's no distinction, though, between the physical body and all these other bodies. This is just like, kind of ground zero where they all meet, and then before they go back and start, So that's the important thing is like heaven and awakening to something is not out of your body. It is not up there but above your head. Is not in outer space beyond the sun, moon, and stars. It's inside of you. Okay.
Okay. Well, so this is great, which it kind of leads me to a couple of different. I have a bunch more things I love to just. You never have enough time with Chi Talks, but I do know that you have an offer for folks who are here of the training courses that you've got, and that you're offering it at a special price. Would you talk a little bit about what that is?
So it's not a special offer. It's a standing offer I make to everybody because I want them to like get grounded and get essential tools. So it's on the homepage of my website. It's what I call Medical and Spiritual Qigong Fundamentals 1 and 2. It's the entry course, and it teaches you the 6 healing sounds. It teaches you the inner smile. It teaches you the best method of the orbit. Now, there's dozens of methods to learn the orbit, and I've investigated them all. And one of them is 100 times superior to the other ones. It comes from Wudong Mountain, and it's called the Red Dragon Spinning Pearl Orbit. Now, I mentioned earlier how this spiraling is really how you shift between spirit and matter, okay? And this orbit path, you have a pearl that spins around the orbit, and it integrates your Jing, your Qi, and your Shen, which are just the terms for your dense energy, your more fluid energy, or your spiritual energy. They're all the same thing. They're just vibrating at a little bit different speeds. This spinning pearl integrates them all, and they go around so that your fire and water channel. And so if people have those basic tools from this weekend workshop, the chances of them having chi deviation or Kundalini psychosis goes down to almost zero.
So this is one of the things you do with people who come to you with chi deviation or Kundalini
I tell them,
psychosis is you teach them these basic
I don't even teach them. I
healing
say,
Tao practices.
you don't need to pay my expensive hourly rate. Just go get that course, listen to the course, and if you still have questions, oh, fine, we'll do another session. But you just do that, you can heal most of the things yourself.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Well, Caroline has put the link in the chat for people to go ahead and check that out. And I want to open it up to the Q&A at this point. So if you have a question or you have an experience with chi deviation and you'd like to share that, please raise your hand. You can raise it by, I think Carolina described it. You can go to the reactions. Of course, we can't see you if you just raise your hand, put your cameras off, and plus there's a lot of people here. So I'd love to hear from any of you. Just go ahead and raise your hand so I know to call on you. And I'm going to ask you, Carolina, to help me moderate that because participants' window is a little funky right now. So while we're waiting to see if somebody else has a question, do you have or a comment? Do you have a favorite story? Not that's not just your own experience of your own awakenings, but that of a person that who came to you with a specific thing that they really shifted through the practice that you offer? I see you, Dennis, and I'll call on you in just a minute.
Oh, I've helped dozens of people. I mean, it's common. People are just so grateful, like,
Yeah,
wow,
but did you have a favorite story that stands out for you, or is it they're all just kind of interesting and fine?
they're all different. They all have different. Yeah, I mean, I actually like listen to people and figure out like where is your particular thing coming from. So they're all different. Sometimes people have had an accident, like a car accident, and triggered something, and or sometimes they've had a trauma in their life and that triggered things. I mean, the stories are so varied. Okay, and I just say, look, you got to get you have to come into direct relationship with the life force. That's your
Yeah.
teacher, not me, not anybody else. Okay. I mean, all the Qigong teachers are fantastic. They're great. They're teaching people how to get, their fundamental things of, balancing your yin and yang flow. I mean, they're all helpful. They're all great. But I said, ultimately, you got to take responsibility for yourself and connect right to the Qi field yourself.
That makes sense. Okay, so Dennis, welcome. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi. I really appreciate such an articulate and informative discussion of chi deviation. I had a question though. I've been teaching for a long time, and I've had a couple of students that had some uh, incidents. It's like they broke out completely in a rash. So could the chi deviation not only be emotional or psychological, but could it be show up in physical symptoms like rash or all the joints, they can't move very much or anything like that?
Absolutely. Yes, of course. What happens with the rash is coming out through the metal element. Okay, that's the skin. Okay, the lungs, large intestine. A lot of people have got problems. Okay, and so when those things get to be too toxic and you start to do something to clear out, they may come out as a rash, which is it's like a mini healing crisis. And they have to be patient and just trying to go through it. But it's not about stopping that. It's about like, yeah, okay, let's get this trapped heat that's coming out through our skin here. Let's let's and sometimes that metal chi can't go down. See, this metal like energy likes to sink. Then the deep earth pulsing or things like that would be very helpful. You need to find some way to get that chi down to get it more grounded because it's coming up out, either through insomnia or it can come out through your joints or, through your skin. But yes,
Oh, good. Yeah, at that time, what I had suggested to the students were to back off on qigong and back off on qigong and see how things go. But then, since you're talking about these different ways to approach, grounding and all of that, that really, really gives me a lot more to work with. So
yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me add, your advice may also be good because one thing, a lot of people cannot do anything. When they first are really sensitive and they're really out of balance, they try anything and it just amplifies it. So sometimes they have to just go to bed, go to sleep, just stop doing everything and try and just like get into their, take a walk, really simple things, because anything may trigger them further. Sometimes people are just so sensitive they can't do anything.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Always such a pleasure to see you. We have a question in the chat from Jessica saying the term Kundalini has been around for many centuries. Has the meaning of it changed over this time?
Well, as I said, in modern times, the Gopi Krishna book was the first one that actually applied it into modern times because, yeah, there's been India's got thousands of years of history, and like China does, but for most of that period of time, it wasn't translated. It wasn't known in the West. Okay, it wasn't until the British invaded India and they started translating these things, in the 19th century that they actually started finding out about this stuff. Okay, so there are many, many schools in India, and the big difference here is between the Vedic and the Tantric. The Tantric is closest to the Taoist because it's about embodiment, okay? And the Vedic is actually from Atlantis, okay, if you want to go into esoteric history, but that tends to be much more out of the body, and, Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta and all these other things are, they tend to be focused out of the body, okay? So I can't say, in India, these things have changed and there's many schools and within India, but the Westerners have just been interacting, in the last, 150 years, really. Okay. That's fairly recent. And what happened is that because the British invaded India, and they taught a lot of people English, then the yogis and people started coming over here, and so everybody learned first about Indian yoga and Indian culture, predominantly Yogananda, but all of that was also hyped up by editors in the West here, putting all these fantastic powers and things in it. And it was like, there's a lot of spiritual fantasy that went into these things, okay? So you have to understand that the stuff that got published was not necessarily, let's just say, accurate, okay?
So Jessica says, thank you. So if you have another question, if anybody has a question or a comment, or if you've had any experience with chi deviation yourself, either as a practitioner or as a student or somebody who's been exploring, love to hear from you. Just raise your hand so that we can bring you onto the screen. And I think that is there something else that you wanted to say, Michael? I think I might have stepped on your tongue a little earlier. You were starting to say something about the importance of, I guess is there things that people need to know when they're sort of going into qigong? Is there something that they need to know that that they need to be aware of? Is it to not just kind of do random things, or is there some other thing that people need to know to be able to feel like they can navigate
Okay.
without these types of deviations happening?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've just warned them. I would say many people have had problems with Indian teachers teaching them to open up the third eye or the crown first. The Taoist point of view is open your navel first, okay?
Mhm.
Your lower
Mhm.
dantian, and that takes longer. It's slower. It's more dense, okay?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the Taoist would work from the bottom and slowly move up the core channel and opening up all these different centers. But the Hindus and often the Buddhists, no, let's just, there are different Buddhists again. I don't want to generalize, but they tend to like try and open up things from above first and go into empty space or get out of their body and all this kind of stuff. Um, so that has caused a lot of problems for Westerners who are already in their head because they're looking at screens and the computer and they're thinking all the time. They're in their mental body and they're not grounded. Okay, they're totally like their body is like they only notice it when they're sick or when they're having sex. Okay, then oh yeah, I have my body. Oh, this is yeah, this is really good. I'm having sex, or I'm really bad. I'm sick. And the rest of the time, maybe they're doing sports also. Yeah, I'm working hard, but otherwise they're just like in their head, and they think they're that's the problem. And then they start
Mhm.
to do a meditation in their head, and it blows it up. And particularly if they also do some sexual practice or something, and or watching porn or whatever else that will amplify that. And the sexual energy is particularly difficult to heal because it acts like super glue. Okay, it's just like it bonds people together, for a lifetime, and whatever you have sex with somebody, you're like you're bonded there. So you can bond internally with that sexual energy with negative patterns or head patterns. I can remember when I was training in sexual energy, Taoist energy, sexual energy practices, one time I had a headache, and I thought, small thing, no big deal. And then I said, I'm going to pull up my sexual energy and I'm going to recirculate it. And it went up and it amplified that headache, and I had it for 3 days. And it was like 10 times worse. I'm going, oh my God, I couldn't get rid of it. Okay. So you have to understand, this is what happens to people. They just accidentally, they're just stumbling around and they inflame and it's really, their suffering is really terrible. Okay. It's not mild. Okay. Some people cannot work. They cannot do a job. They have too much insomnia. I mean, they quit their jobs. I mean, it can be really devastating to somebody. Okay.
So we've got a couple more questions that have come in, Michael. So first, have you ever heard of suggesting the use of weighted blankets as a way to help ground someone experiencing a deviation, such as we've been discussing?
No, actually, I have not heard of that as a suggestion. I think that there's people have these grounding things where they have a copper thing going from their bed, out the window and down. The deep earth pulsing is much better for grounding. It's 100 times more powerful than these, physical solutions. Okay, so that's what I usually tell them. I say, look, do the deep earth pulsing, and put your intent and your chi and merge it in with the energy body of Mother Earth. Okay, that's much more powerful. That may help some people. Okay, but then they also may get too hot. Okay, and then they start to feel it from the hot blanket, and they might start to feel inflammation and heat, and it could be a problem for some people. Okay, that could be a problem.
Right. There's no blanket, so to speak, solution. So Elise asks, are chi deviations more mental, manifesting as physical? What is the best way to correct?
Well, they're different for everybody. Okay. No, they're not necessarily mental. They're energetic, and depending on how you are constituted. Some people are very mental, some people are very emotional, and they may come out as physical symptoms. I mean, that's very personal. Okay, that's why I said I look first of all, what's your constitution? What's governing you? Are you a very yang type? Are you a yin type? And which elements are dominant here? And, that's why I looked at their Chinese astrology chart right away. Just to say, is there an extreme here? Okay. And I don't see any extreme. I say, okay, that's not the problem. Then I go to the other things. Is it ancestral? Is it, and it can be, often it's sexual. Is it dietary? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things, lifestyle things that could be aggravating it too. Okay. I ask what their job is. You find out their relationships. You have to see where's the stress coming from. Okay. And, if you start asking enough questions, you get to know the person, you'll start to figure out, hey, wait a minute, these are what's feeding this pattern,
Okay. We've got a testimonial here from one of your students, Sylvia Mayok. She says that she can attest to how wonderful your teachings are. That red dragon spinning pearl microcosmic orbit is incredibly powerful, as are the lesser Conley practices, truly alchemical. And we have another question here from Suze saying, do you have an invocation or intention you say before students practice?
Well, I always proceed all my practices with the inner smile, which is going inside your spiritual heart center, opening to this pure space of love that's not controlled by the events in your life and, not programmed, and smiling to my whole energy body and stepping out of my just dense physical self into my energy body self. So if you get out of your dense, contracted physical self, it's so much easier to move and adjust your chi. Okay? I mean, just like double the size of yourself. Okay? Just like, I want to be double. And now moving the chi is twice as easy. Okay? And you want to have high vibration. Okay? You want to have love coming into it. You're loving your whole energy body. You have pain. You got some problem. You love it. Okay? This is the difference between Western medicine and Taoist medicine. The Western medicine is, your body's a machine. We got to like chop it up or drug it or fix it. And the Taoists are like, no, wait a minute. This whole thing is alive, and we got to love it back to health and into harmony. Okay. So I always start with the inner smile. Okay. I think that's one of the powerful practices anybody can do. And if you're loving yourself, you're on the way to genuine spiritual awakening, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, because where's that love coming from? It's coming from Source. So
Yeah.
once you connect to that, then you're connected to Source. Okay.
It's just so beautiful. So, if you have other questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat or raise your hand. But I want to take just a moment to talk about the NQA. So, first of all, please sign up on our email list to get the quarterly newsletter, which has inspiring articles and interviews from the NQA population. Just go to the nqa.org website. You go to the bottom of the page, you can enter your email. So, why would you want to do that? I think that when you join the email list, you'll be the first to hear about upcoming presentations, topics for Chi Talks, as well as upcoming live and virtual Qigong trainings, workshops, and events. But of course, as always, I'd love you to consider becoming a member of the organization. So whether you're a highly seasoned practitioner or you're starting sort of from scratch or you're somewhere in between, the NQA membership includes people with a diverse education, experience, approaches, applications, and way more in Qigong. So at the same time, what I always appreciate is that the organization doesn't really promote any specific approach to this multifaceted, multi-layer body of work, but rather it provides a place where exchange and connections can happen, and we can hear from one another about things that we may not know. Uh, to get more about what you might gain about joining, do check out our membership page to see a full list of benefits. But I'll just name a few of them. First of all, there's a special members-only discount prices or free attendance at live and/or virtual conferences, workshops, and events. For example, every month the NQA offers a follow-up to Chi Talks to this program called Synergy, which usually features our most recent Chi Talks guest and offers participants a workshop where they can experience some of what they were speaking about. So you're going to have an opportunity to explore more with Michael this weekend, which he's going to lead a session in Qigong to balance heaven, earth, water, fire polarities, some of which he's referred to today. And that's Sunday, January 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I can't read the whole description, but what I'll say is what I did sort of catch from it is everyone has a unique constitution, and this manifests as our unique personal energy body with its mix of yin yang and 5 phases elements flowing in our meridians. This Qigong form is custom designed to balance those cardinal polarities, and the movements are gentle, circular, and easy to perform for all ages. It restores our center point where we can feel grounded and in harmony with life and in balanced relationship with others. Pain, resistance, stuck emotions, disease, and suffering can magically dissolve when we practice this form over time. So if you're a member of the NQA, Synergy is absolutely free. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go to it, right? Make the time. And if you're not a member, the fee is only $25. And either way, you're going to receive the recording. So even if you can't be there live, you'll have access to do it in your own timing. So check that out. The NQA also offers quarterly, more extensive and in-depth Qi trainings. This month, on January 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern, Francesco Garapoli will be leading a program Unlocking the Mind of Yi. You can check out the link Carolina's posting, and some of what he writes includes the ancient Taoist term Yi is quite misunderstood which leads to many practitioners not fully grasping the power of our mind to help activate Qi in what Francesco refers to as the Qi effect, which is the name of his latest book. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a very interesting book. And in this 2.5-hour session, you'll gain a deeper understanding of the principle of unlocking our minds in Qigong practice, unpack the essence of Yi as defined by ancient Taoists, learn the difference between moving Qi and activating Qi, and learn several movement techniques to better trigger the Qi effect. People with long-term Qigong practice will open deeper to utilizing Yi in their more efficient and heart resonant ways, and those who are new to Qigong will align your practice in a joyful way that brings another powerful dimension to your form. The fee for this workshop is $79, but if you remember, it's only $49. So that's another, one of those benefits that becomes useful, especially if you want to sort of explore some of the different wisdoms that come through the NQA. So another benefit is if you're a professional Qigong teacher yourself or you're a healer practitioner, you're eligible to be a guest on Chi Talks. We're taking reservations now for 2027. We're booked up for the rest of this year. But it's a good idea to come on to Chi Talks if you'd like to share your wisdom with a wider community, inspire more people than you already do in the work that you do, and build your business, spread the chi. Again, in order to be a guest on Chi Talks, you do have to be either a professional or practitioner level member. There are a lot of other member benefits, but I always ended with the same one every month. Say, for 10 years, I've been saying one of the things that I think is one of the biggest benefits is becoming a part of a community where, even as diverse as it can be in terms of qigong approach, it's a community where people really love to share the joy and the heart that qigong practice brings. So let's talk a little bit about money. There are 3 levels of membership. The annual fee for general members is $45, practitioners is $100, and the professional membership, which is for teachers, is $150. But to thank you for being a participant here, we have a special discount no matter what level you choose and whether you're renewing or you're coming in for the first time. So check out the chat. Carolina's posting the landing page and the discount code. And if you're planning to come to Synergy with Michael this Sunday, and of course I encourage you to do that, and you're not a member, you may as well access this evening's discount and join for at least $35, which means that actually you'd only be paying an extra $10 to become a member than the non-member fee, which is $25. And you'll get that synergy, but you'll also get synergy for the rest of the year and all the perks that are included, including special discounts for Francesco's workshop, discounts for the conference if you're planning to come to that, upcoming trainings, access to the Chi Talks library because there are over 134 audio video programs with amazing diverse types of programs, so check it out. So there's a lot of benefits. Again, you go to the membership page and you'll see what those are. So that's my pitch. I'm not gonna say any more about that. I see I've got some more things in the chat. I want to see if there's any other questions. Uh, let's see here. I think I've got thank yous and I've got Carolina's things. Carolina, I don't think I've missed anybody. So, Michael, do you have any concluding remarks that you want to say as we bring this to a close? It was a very fast hour. Uh, so, what would you say that people, what do you want to leave people with around this topic? Oh, I see that Denise wants to ask a question. Let's go ahead and take a minute for you. Oh, and I see Lou, I see you there also. So let's go ahead and since you're here, I'm going to go ahead and have you unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question or speak, Sue.
Yeah, I want to ask teacher Michael about the Tao society because I'm learning the yellow cord script or the golden flowers, and then I only have the Chinese version, and I want to learn the English version. They have so many different people write the English book, so I do not know which one to choose from. So do you have any recommendations?
Well, look, usually I tell people you can only learn so much from a book. Okay. It's better that you get oral transmission of a method from somebody. That's why I make the medical and spiritual Qigong fundamentals course. It's $129, 2-day training, 2 videos, and you'll get so much more information than reading a book. Okay. The books are just limited. Okay. I mean, that was the first book I wrote for Montauk Chia, was called Awakening Healing Energy, and it had a very simple way to open up the orbit. But the methods I'm teaching now are far more advanced, and they're far more effective. So trust me, that's a good investment. Okay.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Denise, you had a question or a comment?
Thank you. It's really nice to be here with everyone. I've heard different views about meditating or working with our energy flowing from the left hand out the right hand. And I also heard from someone about, depending on your gender, it would go one way or the other way. Are you aware of this opposite hand with different genders, or how do you approach it?
This is a common thing in China. Okay. Yes. So, in the Chinese model, the left side of the body is yang because the heart's on the left side, and the right side is considered to be yin. And so some teachers say, well, you got to put if you're a woman, you're going to put your right hand against your body, or your left if you're a male. It's not that important, okay? It's not going to, what's more important is like the whole pathway. What are you doing? What's your practice, okay? This is very secondary. I would not get yourself bent up out of shape about it, okay? If you had a serious problem, I mean, this is one of the things I ask when people have a problem. I say, well, give me your medical history. And if I see everything is on one side of the body or the other, then I go, oh, you have an ancestral issue. It's all on the male side or it's all on the female side, okay? Then that's important. But just which way your chi is going to go, I mean, you can direct it with your intention, and it's not that significant, okay? So don't worry about that, okay? Worry about your deeper, the whole practice, okay? And then you'll be fine.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise, for coming on and asking your question. Okay, so Michael, as I was asking you before, are there final thoughts or any final things that you want to say to people as we bring this to a close?
I am grateful to each and every one of you for doing your spiritual work because that's the most important. That's why we came here to this planet. Okay. That's our spiritual job as humans. So if you are doing that work, I am so grateful to you. You are advancing the mission of humanity. Okay. This is not a small thing at all. It's very, very important. And so I just encourage you, pursue your path to go as deep as you can with it, and it will reward you. That's all I can say, and as well as reward the collective of humankind. So thank you.
What an inspiring conclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I want to thank everybody for joining us for this evening's Chi Talks. Next month, our guest is Brian Cook, speaking about 5 spirits descending Kunlun Mountain. Brian is a certified qigong instructor leading practices in parks along the Front Range of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. His practices are open to all interested, irrespective of their previous experience. He also focuses on practices that support cancer patients, at-risk youth, people in addiction recovery programs, and in nursing homes. He's a licensed massage therapist dedicated to integrating mind-body approaches from the East and the West. And that program is going to be coming to you live on Thursday, February 12th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So put that date in your calendar. Join me again so you can be part of what I'm sure is going to be another Chi-inspired discussion. Michael, I can't thank you enough. You rock. And a shout out to the Chi Talks team, Carolina Silva, Luisa De Castro, and our NQA hub, Lauren Thomas. You're all amazing, part of the Chi Talks team. And so with that, I will say good night. And until next time, be well and let the Chi flow. Bye-bye.